we'll see if it's working. Okay. All right. Today we're joined by Kira Noodleman. She's an investor with B Partners. She invests in things like Tradesy, TubeMogul, StatMuse. She likes crypto, space, and global warming tech. Is that right?
Yeah. Climate change innovation.
Climate change innovation. She wants to save the planet from ourselves. She's also a yogi.
Big time.
Yeah, a teacher of yoga. So welcome, Kira.
Thank you.
Okay. So I want to start. So how did you get into venture capital? Let's start there.
Yeah. Well, I got into venture capital really through a passion for startups and entrepreneurship. And where that started was out of college. I worked for a startup, ended up actually working abroad in Brazil off and on for about a year. Ended up moving down to Argentina for another few years and working with some larger companies. Decided I wanted to go to business school, moved back to the Bay Area. Actually was working with Google on Project Aura and a modular smartphone, but that part of Google was run like a startup.
What's Project Aura?
Yeah, I was building a modular smartphone and going to market with it, where if you needed a new battery, instead of buying a new phone, you'd actually replace the battery.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was pretty cool, and I got so interested, and we were launching in Puerto Rico, and it was this really exciting project to be working on, and I just got caught up in go-to-market and entrepreneurship and startups. I know it's at Google, but like it actually had that environment to it.
Well, you probably had to have that environment. I mean, you were building something new.
Right, and it was brand new, totally new hardware, new concept, all types of new software that needed to be built. It was a global team, totally interdisciplinary.
I mean, entrepreneurship doesn't only need to be startups. Like, it's anyone who's looking at a problem from an angle that they need to, innovation needs to be solved.
Yeah, exactly. And what was cool about it is it was meant to bring the internet to the next 5 billion people. And so that would be the low end of the market, people like who didn't have a smartphone today. And one family could swap out a data card and share their phone and do all kinds of cool things with one device. And then you could really trick it out and have the equivalent of an iPhone today, but all kinds of interesting things that aren't possible because you can't customize it for you individually.
So the goal was to onboard another 5 billion people to the internet.
Yeah, exactly. It was this huge, enormous, and now that I'm in venture, like big, hairy, audacious goal is the way I describe it. It was so much fun, and it was, and everything about it was new technology to put the phone together and to have this special kind of magnet that you could have these different modules to insert, and even the technology of how to build a shell to work with these different parts of the phone was really cool and hard. It was a hard problem.
Yeah.
And we were in this global team because I was working with a development team down all over South America, and there was teams in India and China, and even within, like at Mountain View, different departments. So it was this enormous effort. It was a team of over 100 people.
And where did that go?
So where that led me was, I'm passionate about this startup building things that matter. And then I decided I'd like to go to business school and learn more and get some hands-on experience with a lot of different things and see where it goes. But I knew entrepreneurship was what I was interested in. And focused there, worked for an accelerator called Launch, which serves the whole University of California as an MBA student. And then ended up just going so deep in it that I had mentors around me ask me if I was interested in venture or had I considered it. And I actually hadn't. I just thought I'd end up at a startup. And then ended up getting an internship at B Partners between my 2 years in school. And we actually started this summer with them saying, hey, like, have a great summer. There's not a job here. And I was like, cool. I just want the experience. That's awesome. And then at the end of the summer, in my last day, they offered me a job. And so that's how I landed in venture.
Well, that's awesome. So how long have you been doing this now?
Yeah, it's been just over 6 months.
So what are your first impressions of that part of the industry?
Yeah. You mean like venture in general?
Venture capital in general. Like, what's the fun part? What do you enjoy doing?
Oh, totally. I get paid to talk to really smart, interesting people. And I get paid to think and learn about new topics like space, like autonomous vehicles, like really complicated last mile logistics, like big data, all these things that it's my job to constantly look around the corner, broaden my horizons, expand my mind. Like it's the coolest thing ever.
And to your knowledge right now, what do you think to your phrasing of it, the big, hairy, big problem things are right now in sort of the world that venture capital is sort of trying to support?
Yeah, I mean,
is that a good phrase? I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Obviously they're in crypto, they're in space, but like, what are you getting excited about? What's the big problem that you're trying to like push?
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
to solve, not to push and make.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what do I think is the most important thing?
Yeah.
Well, there's two ways I can answer that. One would be, I am really passionate about climate change innovation. So how that boils down, for example, a company I was talking to today is using a CubeSat to measure something called evapotranspiration on agriculture.
Finally,
I know, that one's overdue.
Yeah, I've been waiting for my evapotranspiration transponder for the last 50 years.
Right. And I know you were, Adam. So what that does, though, is that it helps farmers because actually most of the time plants are overwatered or underwatered. And so this helps them get the optimal zone of how they're watering their plants. And what that'll avoid is 20% loss of yield. And why is that a problem? Because as the population's growing, food scarcity, and we are just incredibly inefficient with our food value chain.
Yeah. And in agriculture, there's actually a huge problem with workers, supply.
Yeah.
And that's becoming an even bigger problem.
Right.
And I'm fascinated from that side as well.
Absolutely. And, then there's another angle to this as well, where why wouldn't we bring the best of our technology and abilities to food the way we have in other industries? So, for example, why wouldn't we be looking at growing meat outside of the animal and clean meat? And so actually those are some of the solutions I've been looking at lately, because I think that's an amazing way to reduce carbon emissions, and we ingest all kinds of hormones ourselves because of the animals we're eating and the way they're treated. Mm-hmm. So there's so many angles.
So the Memphis meats, that
that
whole world.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. Memphis Meats, I believe, came out of an Indie Bio, which is an awesome.
Totally.
I interviewed Arvind on this. So
super cool.
If you're listening, you should listen to that episode so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's really fascinating. So on the crypto side, like, what have you been looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So
I guess we just go through all three. So you're looking at vaporization, satellite imagery.
Yep.
Am I saying that right?
Evapotranspiration.
Evapotranspiration.
Yeah, perfect though. Perfect.
In space, from space.
Yeah.
And then you're also looking at that's on the global warming, saving the world side.
Right. And I would, frame that as, I wouldn't say Be Partners tells the world that, like, we're trying to save the world here, but I think there's a lot. We look at enabling technologies and marketplaces. Actually, since our inception almost 10 years ago, that's where we've looked. And I think with enabling technologies, there's a lot of ways to apply it that have venture returns and can make positive change for the world. Definitely. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's what I think of as saving the world. Like, all venture capital is about is like seeing where the largest problems are.
Exactly.
Where like the cost of service is so high and the delivery, the actual quality of service is so low.
Right.
And right now you're looking and you're saying like Earth, like and food.
Right.
And
what are the foundational things that need fixing?
Yeah. There's this incredibly high cost and future cost that could happen if we keep going that road.
Exactly.
I definitely get that. So you're also looking at crypto and space. Well, I guess that other one's space and sort of global.
Yeah, it is. It's a good little mix right there.
Yeah, you got to blend the two. Okay, on the crypto, we don't need to talk about crypto, but we do talk about crypto a lot on this
we can
podcast.
talk. Let's talk about it.
So what's your thesis, or what have you sort of run away with in that space, in the blockchain space? Because earlier you were saying that you've been looking at blockchain for a while.
Yeah, it took me some months to just digest everything I could in the space and listen to your podcast and other podcasts.
Great.
Like
it comes full circle.
It does. You're one of the earlier voices in my education.
Lightning round. Oh, God. Someone wrote on Twitter and they said, you've been on the internet too long when when you read the words lightning round and Adam Draper's voice revolves in your head.
You can't get that one out of your head. It's a good one. But yeah, at the beginning, it was just digesting as much as I could with the events and talking to experts who would be willing to chat with me and podcasts and all of that. But these days, I'm really interested in decentralized exchanges and basically marketplaces, right? So we've made an investment as a firm in a digital asset management platform. And then another type of marketplace I think is really interesting is something like the Ocean Protocol and what it supports and helping people take their data sets and have ways to monetize it to AI companies. So that's one pretty interesting way to work with the marketplace. I also think things like working with illiquid real estate assets and having that on a marketplace where previously they're unavailable is pretty interesting. And I've seen different things on like.
So I'm gonna ask you a question that overlaps both of your interests,
Sure.
Which is, global warming, crypto. People always go to me and they're like, why are you burning up the Earth's core with all your crypto miners?
Yeah.
Do you think? I think there is an argument against that being the case.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if you did.
Yeah.
Because for like a month there was just all news saying like so much electricity is going into like killing off the earth with
Right.
mining because money.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's things like, do I think that's a problem? Yeah, I mean, I've seen different solutions that instead of proof of work, it's like proof of useful work, and let's put the work to do something. And I've also seen things like the Chia network that's in a similar vein that is harnessing computer power that's like it's not wasting the power. It's actually going to...
It's going somewhere.
Exactly. So I think I'd love to hear your argument against it, but I do think that shift should happen where there should be more useful work, although there is a core value to the work that goes into the consensus that then, you don't need to trust anyone because there's a consensus method that's appending new transactions to a chain. So.
Yeah. So if you look at the problem that's being solved, which is replacing third-party trust.
Right. Exactly.
And you look at the current model where we trust systems.
Right.
All of those systems, if you added up all of those systems,
Yeah.
are using way more energy than the current network.
Right.
And so my thought process is I don't have any data to back up my claim, okay? I have zero. But I'm thinking like there are thousands of banks, and the top banks are employing hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
All of those people are literally just working towards being that third party that everyone's trusting.
Authority.
And if you're thinking banks, but that's not only it. There's also government. There's also there are all of these places that are using electricity inefficiently or efficiently, but a lot of it.
Yeah.
And so my thought process is if you're replacing trust, if you're thinking of it from the ground level, we are using far less.
I see that point. And then I wonder too, I think about scale. You had a good point because you're saying, well, there's not only the miners and the nodes, but there's all the people that are surrounding that central authority. But then I think of, okay, Ethereum can process 15 transactions a second. Visa processes 45,000 transactions a second. So, then there's this piece like...
those have to be taking some electricity also. Those servers aren't just zero, net zero servers.
I know. So it's a problem. It's a problem.
No, and I think, I think I'm okay with it highlighting, I'm always very defensive, and I always want to find the counter argument for crypto just to be in support of the network and make sure that we're all focused on the right things.
Right.
Because there are enough problems as it is that I'm not sure global warming's one of them for crypto specifically.
Right.
Yeah. And
I'm not sure I'm not convinced they overlap in a way that I would today make an investment, but I'm very much looking at it and I'm very curious.
Okay. But that was, I'm glad we talked about that because I actually haven't really discussed that with anyone yet.
It feels good to get it out.
Yeah.
It feels important.
I needed to get it out. Okay. So what are you've been doing this for 6 months. 6 months. You probably know more about crypto at this point than I do. No joke. I feel like this newest generation out actually has way more information out there to get up to speed faster than I know a lot of the people in the industry, but like staying up to speed is like
so hard.
A full-time job
like
times 4.
Yeah, totally.
And so, like, I genuinely believe that these people like you and this next group that's coming and jumping in will know more about the actual technology than I will. But so what are you looking for in entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's a great question. Specifically in crypto, I think there's usually has to be a higher bar for the technical capability, and it's because of how challenging it is, and it's still very much the unknown to create a brand new blockchain and protocol. And for entrepreneurs that maybe are building on top of Ethereum, it's a little bit different, but it's also a different argument for these entrepreneurs of, well, what are you doing that's different? Why do you need your own coin? So, okay, there's this piece of technical that's elevated in our firm's view for crypto. And then beyond that, I'm really looking for somebody who has deep market insight and expertise. And if you're trying to disrupt an industry, then I hope you know it really well and really understand the problem you're solving. And that is actually not as common as you might think to find. And also, are these people gritty? Have they been through some hardship, and can they work through a challenging time? Do they have empathy for the problem they're solving, and also just for the people around them, because to be an entrepreneur, it's so grueling and a grinding process. And so, are they going to be able to make it through?
I'm a sucker for someone who is just like, yes, they have industry knowledge, but who's been hit in the face a couple times.
Exactly.
And has infinite enthusiasm for what they're doing.
Totally.
Like, I'm a complete sucker.
Right. Like, there's this idea of, what is it? Like a mercenary founder versus a missionary founder. And if you are a missionary founder, you're going to solve that problem regardless.
No
matter what, you're solving that problem. And so we definitely look for people we as a firm, but also like that's who I get excited about when I'm meeting them out at an event, or just someone reaches out to me cold, and like I will definitely take that meeting. And then like another piece here is just, are you a resource magnet? Because when you're building something brand new and you're a pioneer, you have to invent it yourself. And so can you flank yourself with the right team?
Completely. And leaders. You want to find someone who you'd be willing to follow, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's very wise. And you said empathy. Not enough people say that, and I think that if I were to pattern match on like the founders that we backed, the ones who have performed the best are the ones who are empathetic to the customer.
Right.
The most.
Exactly.
Like they really understand. Like when they report a problem, they truly feel the problem. They're like, I get it. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, our product doesn't do that yet. It will. like
it needs to, because I really know. Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't, it's just a different game with that kind of entrepreneur.
And how would you get in? How would you get into venture capital today if you were like, you got in and it's like, hey, like I was interested in a bunch of stuff, and then this opportunity approached me, like and now you're gonna crush it. Like that's what it feels like. How would you suggest other people think about getting into venture capital or not getting into it? I don't know.
Yeah, like if I would recommend it or not.
Both.
Yeah, either way. I have never had a job that's more interesting or intellectually stimulating. I think it's a type of industry with a lot of really big personalities. I think you should be an extrovert, or at least very comfortable constantly talking to a lot of high-powered people that are intense. And
get used to giving people high fives.
Yeah. And working with a lot of guys. And I would recommend it. And
working with a lot of guys. That's true.
Which, that's changing in small ways, and in some cases bigger ways.
Cover of Forbes, I believe.
The All Raise. Yeah. I think that's what their organization's called. And it's all these badass women VCs that came together, and we're trying to make it easier for female founders and female VCs to succeed. And I'm just speaking with Plug and Play Ventures about this organization or event series called Found Her. And anyways, there's stuff. But I think I guess if you're the type of person who just loves learning and loves learning about new technology and discovering, like, figuring out what's innovation and finding people to pair with that and, learning to get your perspective on what is a problem that needs to be solved, what's foundational, what's game-changing, and what's a Me Too idea. I think I just can't think of a more interesting job of saying, let me paint the picture, or let me paint the picture of what the future looks like.
Yeah, and throwing value behind it.
Yeah, let me not only just paint that picture, but let me actually back that up with not just money, but resources. So part of why I'm excited about working at B is that we have a partnership model. And so we're pre-seed and we help teams get from 0 to 1. And when they show up to us, it's often just right after friends and family money. And so they need everything. Like, we call it the brilliant basics. It's like HR, accounting, legal, but it's like, okay, equity compensation. It's your first pilot project. It's marketing, PR. It's really everything. And so also I like to get my hands dirty. And if you're that kind of person, get into investing and also find the right firms who actually do that. Because some firms are just as legitimate and just don't have that style and that approach.
And would you recommend getting a mentor in the industry or something?
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question, because I think just like getting into crypto, it was really hard to find the right information, and it was just this scavenger hunt. I think even learning venture capital and what it means to do it and be good at it felt similar.
Yeah.
And I would say I have talked to so many people who've generously made time to talk to me, and I don't think I have one mentor, but I have many. And
the board of mentors.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it's not it's a give take, where I love to offer them, I wrote this blockchain investment white paper that I'll share with you. And I asked for some input for drafts along the way, but as I was asking for input, I was sharing tons of resources with them and wanting to be helpful to them and always thinking of how can I also be valuable. So it's just fun really to build relationships. So if, I think you definitely need mentors, because there's no right way to do it. And also so much of this too, which was interesting, because I love the 3 partners I work for, but we're different people, as we should be, and we have different styles. And so what works for one of them is going to be different than what works for me. And so all those conversations, but then also just getting out there, doing, I don't know, speaking at events, doing whatever it is, and just meeting with as many entrepreneurs as I can, helping me being bold and defining my own style alongside that mentorship's been really important.
This is great insight. This is awesome. But okay, I have to go in the lightning round. So
wow.
If you're ready,
I'm ready.
Do you want to be the first person to say the lightning round? Than me
I'm pretty excited about that.
Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Can you go?
Lightning round.
Lightning round. Bam, bam, bam. That was good. Can you throw a football?
Yeah.
And how far?
How far could I throw it? I could probably throw it, across the Boost VC
room.
My older brother played football in high school, and
so you had to learn to throw football.
I learned how to throw football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than him, probably.
Yeah. Well.
What's your ideal day?
Oh, I love that question. So I'm a yogi, so I'd love to do yoga in the morning.
Okay.
Probably go for a hike in Marin, and then have some beers at a brewery and have a homemade dinner with friends coming over. And then go see a concert.
Okay. Just as someone who enjoys beer.
Yes.
What's your beer?
I really like sour beer in general, but I also really like Lagunitas IPA.
Got it. Hey, just had to check.
What about you? Am I allowed to ask in a lightning round?
Yeah, of course. I invented a framework that literally should be broken all the time.
Disruption.
Yeah, I love Elysian Space Dust.
Okay.
It's an IPA. It's a really, really hoppy IPA. So if you don't like hops that much, people won't like it. But it is good. It's a good beer.
Great.
Yeah, that's sort of my celebratory beer. That's the beer I have when I'm celebrating.
Awesome.
Yeah. We've talked about beer for a minute. I don't know.
That's important.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Easy. So I've lived in several other countries, and I would teleport because I've got really close friends in those places, and I love to travel.
I love the reasoning. Like, I have these friends everywhere.
It's really important to hang out with them.
I want to hang out with them. That is awesome.
Totally.
Oh, man. Well, virtual reality is going to get you to be able to hang, it's going to get you.
It'll get me somewhere.
Yeah, it'll get you closer.
Good.
You're stuck on an island with one meal of food and one video game.
Oh.
What meal of food, what video game?
Okay. I would have...
And you have LAN server access, but you can't communicate with anyone for the game. This was a question that someone else asked.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah.
Okay. I would have lobster with garlic butter.
Okay.
Love lobster.
And you're on an island.
And I'm on an island, so I could ostensibly just get more and more.
But yeah, ideally.
So I'm pretty self-supplied. And then, actually, I would play... the Nintendo 64, I'm old school, Mario Kart and or Wave Racer.
I haven't heard any reference to Wave Racer in like 15 years.
Well, it was funny because I was at a bar in the Mission last week with friends, and there was this car setup where it had the N64 set up for multiplayer, and it was just chairs out, go ahead and play. So I played it last weekend, and I was like, holy crap, this is my jam.
Well, yeah, Mario Kart I'm incredible at, so that's good. And then Super Smash Brothers is basically the game that Brayton, my co-founder, and I, like, the only reason our friendship has maintained and the success of Boost VC has completely been built on Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Because when we're frustrated with each other, we go and we play. That's the game. But I'm well played on that. Okay, 2 people in history of time that you would want to have dinner with. Who are they?
Got it. Okay. First one, I think his first name's Charles. Charles Keeling in the 60s invented this machine to measure the carbon dioxide in the environment and was the very first person.
In Hawaii?
In Mauna Loa, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Mauna Loa.
Uh-huh. And so I think at the time it was 310 parts per million. It's over 400 now, which was like the breaking point of where we all should have been paying much more attention. So I would love to talk to him about how he started first talking to people about climate change, and he was really the first person.
Well, the funny thing about I read a book, and it was about that. And his original reason for building out that monitor was not anything like that.
And then,
But then he saw over time, over 60 years or something, right?
Yeah.
Like 40 years. Like it was increasing.
Yep.
And so this was the first time that... Are there any more of those? Because if we're still judging based off of only Mauna Loa...
I think there's a lot more.
Okay, good. Good. That makes me feel
That's important.
better.
It's a good question.
Yeah, and well, you know how they actually judge global warming. There are only a couple ways, and that's one of them. The other one is in the ice tubes. The like you drill into the ice and you slice the ice. And like. You realize that we still have imperfect systems. That's
totally.
What you realize.
Yeah,
and
right.
So, my thought process is like I wanted to figure out where I felt about global warming because everyone's like very animated about it, like for, against,
right.
And like I always want to figure out my opinion. And so I read a couple books on the subject, and I realized that it really is a belief. And it's like, do you think we should do something about it? Yes. Like, at the end of the day, like, we should make...
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to follow blindly into the
yeah,
system.
It makes sense. You wanted to educate yourself.
It's a belief. So, yeah, if you know the Keeling guy, like, you're deep.
I'm super deep.
Okay. What is your definition of success?
Yeah. My definition for success is constantly having the space and time to learn new things, and not just for work, but for me and my personal life.
So good balance and infinite time to learn.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's great. And thank you, Kira, for being on the Boost VC podcast. This was awesome.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.